If I had 5 minutes with you, only 5 minutes before you walked through the door into the most abundant chapter of your life, I would not hand you a spreadsheet. I would not give you a 10-step investment strategy or a thick manual on compounding interest and market timing. No. If I could reach through whatever distance separates us right now and place my hands over yours, if I could look directly into the place in you that has been waiting, quietly, patiently, sometimes desperately, for the life that wealth makes possible, I would not give you a formula. I would give you a truth. One truth. The kind that does not sit in your head but settles into your bones and changes the way you walk into every room for the rest of your life. There is a law governing money. Not the law that your accountant knows. Not the law they teach in business school. It is older than economics. It is older than currency. It is the law that the ancient wisdom keepers understood when they said that the earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof. That fullness, that absolute overflowing surplus of good, is your inheritance. Not a distant promise, not a reward for perfection. Your inheritance right now, today, in the life you are currently living, with the bills you currently owe, with the bank balance you are perhaps afraid to look at this morning. I want you to stay with me for the entirety of what I am about to say, because by the time we are finished here, you are not going to simply understand something intellectually. You are going to feel a shift in the center of your chest, a loosening, a quiet but unmistakable opening, and that opening is the door through which your prosperity will finally, fully, gloriously walk. I have been where you are. I know the particular kind of exhaustion that comes not from physical labor, but from the invisible weight of financial fear. I know the way your stomach drops when you check your balance right before a large payment clears. I know the feeling of watching someone else receive an abundance that you have been silently, persistently, earnestly praying for. I know the confusion that comes when you have done everything right, said the affirmations, thought the positive thoughts, worked the extra hours, and still found yourself standing in the same financial desert you have been standing in for what feels like far too long. I know the shame of it too. The shame that whispers to you that maybe you are the problem, that maybe other people have something you lack. A secret, a connection, a gene, a luck that simply did not make it into your particular inheritance. That voice is lying to you. It has always been lying to you. And today, in the space of this conversation, we are going to dismantle that lie at its foundation. The greatest teacher on the subject of spiritual prosperity that the modern world has produced was a woman named Florence Scoville Shin. She walked the streets of New York in the early 20th century, a city built on the altar of money, and she taught something that the money worshippers around her could not understand. She taught that money is not a destination. Money is not a goal. Money is not even a thing you pursue. Money is a consequence. It is a natural outpouring of an inner state. It is the physical world's attempt to catch up with your spiritual frequency. And if your frequency is one of fear, of grasping, of desperate clinging to what little you have while white-knuckling your prayers for more, then money, no matter how hard you chase it, will remain at arm's length, a mirage that keeps moving as you move toward it. But if your frequency, your deep, subconscious, cellular, habitual frequency, is one of abundance, of trust, of what Florence called divine supply, then money does not have to be chased. It is drawn, it is attracted, it flows. It arrives through channels you cannot predict, from sources you did not plan, in amounts that sometimes make you stop and stand very still, with a kind of grateful awe that you did not know you were capable of feeling. This is not a philosophy. This is a law. And like all laws, it operates whether you believe in it or not. Gravity does not need your faith to keep you on the ground. The law of divine supply does not need your intellectual agreement to govern your financial life. It is already governing it. The only question is whether you are working with it or against it. Let me tell you what working against it looks like. It looks like opening a bill with a feeling of dread. It looks like conversations about money that are saturated with language like, "I cannot afford that. Money is hard to come by. Rich people have all the luck. I never have enough. It looks like spending an entire paycheck and then feeling a mixture of relief and guilt and anxiety that lands somewhere in your chest and never fully leaves. It looks like praying for money while simultaneously believing, somewhere deep beneath the prayer, that the prayer will not work, that you are not quite worthy, that something in your past, some mistake, some failure, some wrong turn, has disqualified you from the full experience of financial ease. I need you to hear this next sentence and hear it completely. Your poverty, whether it is absolute poverty or the kind of quiet, grinding financial tightness that passes for normal in millions of lives, your poverty is not a punishment, it is a pattern. And patterns can be changed. Patterns must be changed. Because you did not come here, to this life, to this world of infinite creative supply, to spend your days rationing your joy because of a number in a database somewhere. You came here to live fully, to experience the complete expression of divine generosity through every area of your life, including the area of money. Florence wrote something that I want to etch permanently into your understanding. She said, "There is a supply for every demand." Read that again, and let it move through you like a slow, warm current. There is a supply for every demand, not for some demands, not for the reasonable, carefully budgeted, spiritually humble demands, for every demand, for the outrageous dream, for the house that seems beyond your means, for the business that seems beyond your experience, for the lifestyle that your current circumstances seem to mock with their smallness. The supply already exists. This is the radical claim at the heart of true prosperity teaching, and it is the claim that your intellect will push back against, because your intellect has been trained on the evidence of your past. Your intellect will say, "That sounds lovely, but look at my bank account, look at my debt, look at the market, look at the economy, look at every rational reason why abundance is not available to me right now." And that is precisely where the work begins. Not in your bank account, in your mind, in the deep subconscious landscape, where the actual instructions for your life are being written every single day. Your subconscious mind is the most faithful servant you will ever have. It does not question your commands. It does not evaluate whether your beliefs are accurate or beneficial. It simply executes. Whatever picture you paint on its walls with the brush of your habitual thought, it works, tirelessly and without complaint, to manifest in physical form. If the picture is one of struggle, it produces struggle with exquisite precision. If the picture is one of abundance, it produces abundance with the same precision. It is entirely neutral. It is entirely yours to direct. The tragedy is that most people have handed the brush to fear. They have let the news paint their walls. They have let the opinions of broke people fill their mental atmosphere with pictures of scarcity. They have let childhood messages about money, the ones you absorbed before you were old enough to question them, messages like, "Money does not grow on trees," or "We cannot afford that," or "Rich people are greedy." They have let those ancient, inherited, entirely unexamined stories become the wallpaper of their inner world. And then they wonder why the outer world keeps producing the same financial story. I want to tell you about a man who came to Florence in a state of complete financial ruin. He was not simply struggling, he was devastated. He had lost a business. He had lost the trust of partners. He had creditors calling. He had a family depending on him, and he had nothing to offer them except his own paralyzed shame. He came to Florence not because he believed in her teachings. He came because he had exhausted every other option. He sat across from her, and he told her his story, and she listened with the full, unhurried attention that only someone who has seen transformation work can afford. And when he was finished, she said something he did not expect. She said, "Your real bankruptcy is not financial. Your real bankruptcy is spiritual. You have stopped believing that the universe is friendly to you." She did not give him an investment tip. She did not help him restructure his debt. She gave him a declaration. One sentence to say every single morning and every single evening and every time the terror rose in his chest. The sentence was this: God is my unfailing supply, and large sums of money come to me quickly, under grace and in perfect ways. He thought it was absurd. He felt like a fraud saying it. The first morning he said it, his bank account had not changed. The first week he said it, nothing visible had shifted. But something invisible had. The man who said that sentence was a different man from the man who had walked into Florence's office. Because the man who had walked in was praying from the posture of desperation. He was begging the universe. He was negotiating with lack. But the man who said that sentence, even if he said it through gritted teeth, even if he said it with half belief and half ridicule, was beginning to speak the language of supply. He was planting a seed. Within weeks, a series of what people might call coincidences began. An old contact he had not heard from in years reached out unexpectedly. An opportunity emerged in a completely different industry from anything he had considered. A debt he thought was owed to him from years past was suddenly, inexplicably honored. And then, larger things. And then larger things still. Not because the universe had decided to reward his sentence recitation, but because his sentence had changed his frequency, and his frequency had changed his actions, and his actions had changed his results. The outer world had simply caught up with the inner revolution. Now, here is the principle you need to understand about money and why so many people who want it, who deserve it, who are intelligent and hardworking and spiritually sincere, why so many of them remain stuck. They treat money as something outside themselves. They treat it as a thing that the world possesses and they are trying to acquire their piece of. They relate to money from the outside in. As if they are standing at a locked vault, pressing their face against the glass, wondering who has the key. Florence knew the vault is inside you. The key is your consciousness, your money consciousness, as she called it. And your money consciousness is not determined by your income history, or your credit score, or the neighborhood you grew up in. It is determined entirely by the sum total of your beliefs about money, about your worthiness of it, about its nature, about your relationship to the divine supply that generates it. If your money consciousness says, I am the kind of person who always ends up broke, the universe does not argue. If your money consciousness says, I am a child of infinite supply, and money flows to me freely and consistently, the universe does not argue with that either. It simply mirrors what it sees. It simply executes the instruction that your consciousness provides. This is why two people can have identical circumstances, identical backgrounds, identical opportunities, and produce wildly different financial results. It is not about the circumstances. It is never about the circumstances. It is about the consciousness walking through the circumstances. So how do you change a money consciousness that has been calcified by years, sometimes decades, of financial struggle? Florence was very specific about this. You do not change it by forcing yourself to feel something you do not feel. You do not change it by pretending the problem does not exist. You do not change it by suppressing the fear and painting a smile over the anxiety. You change it by working directly with the most powerful creative instrument you possess, your spoken word. Florence called this the game of life, and she meant it literally. It is a game. It has rules. And the most fundamental rule is that your word creates your world. Not metaphorically, literally. Every word you speak about money, about your finances, about your future financial life, is an instruction to the creative force that governs reality. When you say, I am always broke, you are not describing a fact, you are issuing a command. When you say, I never have enough, you are not making an observation, you are placing an order. When you say money is hard to come by, you are not being realistic. You are casting a vote for the reality you are going to inhabit. And when you say, with deep feeling and growing conviction, I am a magnet for money, abundance flows to me from expected and unexpected sources. My income is constantly increasing. I am a generous receiver of divine supply. You are also placing an order. You are also casting a vote. The only question is which vote you want your life to tally. I want to give you something practical here. I want to give you a declaration to work with. Not just a sentence to mumble before bed, but a living, breathing, emotionally charged declaration to say, with your whole body, your whole voice, your whole conviction, every single morning before the world gets its hands on your consciousness. Here it is. I am one with the infinite source of all supply. Money flows to me freely, joyfully, and abundantly. I am open and receptive to wealth in all its forms. My needs are always met. My desires are always honored. I live in a rich, friendly, generous universe, and that universe is expressing itself fully through every area of my financial life right now. Say it out loud, not in your head, out loud, because your subconscious mind hears the vibration of your voice in a way that silent thought cannot penetrate. There is something about giving sound to a declaration that makes it real in a way that thinking alone never can. Florence knew this. The most ancient spiritual traditions knew this. The spoken word is the generative force. In the beginning was the word, not the thought, the word. Now, I want to address the subject of money and fear directly, because this is where most people live, and it is a difficult place to leave. Financial fear is one of the most powerful human experiences. It is a fear that can make otherwise intelligent, composed, spiritually evolved people feel like helpless children. It taps something primal, something connected to survival, to safety, to the question of whether you and the people you love will be okay. I do not dismiss this fear. I do not ask you to pretend it does not exist. But I want to show you what it is actually doing to your financial life. Because once you see the mechanism clearly, you cannot unsee it, and that clarity is the beginning of your freedom. Fear is a form of prayer. This is one of the most important sentences Florence ever taught, and it is one that should stop you completely in your tracks and make you reassess every anxious thought you have ever had about money. Fear is a form of prayer. When you lie awake at 3 a.m. calculating whether you can make it to the end of the month, when you obsessively check your account before a payment clears, when you turn down an opportunity because you are afraid of what happens if it does not work, you are not simply being responsible or realistic or cautious. You are praying for the thing you fear. You are directing the full creative power of your consciousness toward the outcome you are most desperately trying to avoid. The universe, that great, perfectly impartial, completely obedient creative intelligence, hears not your words alone, but the entire electromagnetic field of your being. It reads the frequency beneath the words. And when your frequency is saturated with the feeling of lack, of not enough, of things might fall apart, it says, with complete love and complete neutrality, as you believe, so shall it be. And it is always, always right. This is why positive affirmations said on top of deep subconscious fear often do not work as quickly as people hope. You can say, I am abundant all morning, and then spend the rest of the day in a state of financial terror, and what the universe receives is a mixed signal, with the fear being louder, being older, being more deeply grooved in your nervous system than the morning affirmation. This is not a reason to abandon affirmations. It is a reason to do the deeper work, to address the fear itself, to face it, name it, understand it, and then deliberately, consciously, replace it with a new emotional reality. Florence called this casting the burden. She taught that there is a moment in which a person, exhausted by the weight of their own anxiety about money, makes a decision. They say, in effect, I cannot carry this anymore. I release this burden to the divine intelligence that knows how to handle it. Not as an act of giving up, not as resignation or defeat, but as an act of deep, spiritual intelligence. Because the person who insists on carrying every financial worry in their own 2 hands, who insists on solving every money problem with their own limited human mind, who refuses to release the burden to a higher order, that person is actually blocking the very supply they are praying for. They are so busy gripping the problem that they cannot open their hands to receive the solution. The practice of casting the burden looks like this. You sit quietly. You acknowledge the financial situation exactly as it is, without sugarcoating, without drama. You say, this is where I am, this is what I am facing. And then you make a deliberate, conscious act of release. You say, I cast this burden on the divine within. I release it to the infinite intelligence that knows my supply. I let go of this now, and I trust that the perfect solution is already moving toward me through channels I cannot yet see. And then, this is the crucial part. You have to actually let it go. Not for a moment, then take it back an hour later. You have to practice the posture of a person who has handed a heavy package to a master courier and said, "It's yours now. Handle it." You do not follow the courier down the street, demanding to peek into the package. You trust the delivery. I know this sounds difficult. I know the mind will say, but what about the practical steps? What about taking action? What about being responsible? And here is the answer. The release of fear does not preclude action, it perfects it. When you take action from a state of fear, your actions are contracted, reactive, defensive, and often counterproductive. When you take action from a state of trust, from the settled inner knowing that divine supply is real and present and active in your life, your actions are inspired, precise, effective, and often remarkably well-timed. The difference between desperate action and inspired action is the difference between someone drowning and reaching frantically for anything and a skilled swimmer moving smoothly and powerfully through deep water. The water is the same. The difference is entirely internal. Florence spoke often about the principle of preparation. She said that you must prepare for the good you have asked for. This is one of the most misunderstood principles in prosperity teaching, and I want to give it to you with the full clarity it deserves. Preparation is an act of faith. It is the physical demonstration of an inner belief. When you prepare for wealth before wealth has arrived in your outer experience, you are sending the universe one of the most powerful signals available to you. You are saying, "I believe this so completely that I am acting on it right now." What does this look like practically? It might look like clearing the clutter from your home to make space for new abundance to enter. It might look like opening a savings account even when there is almost nothing to put in it, because the account is a statement of intent, a physical container that declares I am ready to receive. It might look like treating yourself to a small luxury that you would normally deny yourself in fear, not recklessly, not irresponsibly, but as a deliberate act of affirmation that says, I am the kind of person who receives good. It might look like dressing for the financial life you are claiming, carrying yourself with the dignity and ease of a person who knows without a shadow of doubt that their supply is secure. Every act of preparation tells the subconscious mind something vital. It says, we are moving. We are not waiting. We are not begging. We are building. And the subconscious mind, that faithful, literal, obedient servant, registers the building and begins to produce evidence that matches it. I want to tell you something about money and generosity that most people get completely backwards. Most people believe that generosity is the province of the wealthy. That first you accumulate enough, and then, once you have more than you need, you give. Florence turned this completely on its head. She taught, and all genuine prosperity teachers have taught, that generosity is not the reward of wealth, it is the mechanism of wealth. You do not give because you have because you give. This is a law. It operates with the same reliability as any physical law. When you give freely, when you tithe even from a small income, when you tip generously, even when you feel the pinch, when you bless someone else's financial good with genuine warmth rather than veiled envy, you are doing something profound to your own financial atmosphere. You are demonstrating to your subconscious mind that you are not a person of lack. A person of lack hoards. A person of lack grips. A person of lack says, I will give later, when I have more. A person of abundance gives now, from what they have now, in the complete trust that the circle of circulation will bring it back multiplied. Florence often quoted the teaching, Give and it shall be given unto you, good measure, pressed down, shaken together, and running over. She took this absolutely literally. She believed that the universe is not stingy and that it does not honor stinginess. It honors the open hand, the open heart. The person who sees money not as something to be accumulated and defended, but as a living energy to be circulated, shared, and trusted to return. Now, here is where I want to be very clear about something. Generosity does not mean financial irresponsibility. It does not mean giving away money you need for essential obligations. It does not mean empty spiritual performance. True generosity is inner. It is the state of the heart from which the outer giving flows. You can give $1 million with a resentful, fearful heart and get nothing back in the spiritual economy. You can give $20 with a heart so full of joy and trust and genuine love for the person receiving it that the vibration of that gift reaches dimensions that money alone cannot touch. Florence knew that the universe reads not the amount, but the frequency, not the gesture, but the spirit behind it. I want to speak now about the particular poison that keeps more people locked out of wealth than any other single force. Its name is envy. And it is so common, so woven into the fabric of ordinary human life, so normalized by our culture, that most people do not even recognize it as the prosperity destroyer it is. Envy looks harmless. It looks like a natural response to living in a world of visible inequality. It looks like you are just noticing that someone has more than you. It looks like a passing twinge of feeling, nothing worth examining, nothing worth taking seriously. But Florence knew better. She knew that every time you look at another person's wealth with a feeling of resentment, comparison, or longing mixed with bitterness, you are doing something very specific to your own money consciousness. You are telling your subconscious mind that abundance belongs to other people, that it is in limited supply, that its presence in someone else's life somehow diminishes its availability to you. And your subconscious mind, ever faithful, ever obedient, takes careful note and adjusts your reality accordingly. The antidote is so simple that it seems almost too small to be the solution to something so significant. And yet, it is the solution. It is blessing. When you see someone driving a beautiful car, instead of the twinge of comparison, you say, I bless that person's abundance, and I know that the same supply that serves them is abundantly available to me. When you hear that a colleague received a significant raise, instead of the quiet deflation of comparison, you say, I bless that prosperity, and I am grateful to see divine supply moving in the world. What is available to one is available to all. When you see someone living in the kind of home you dream of, you stop, you breathe, and you say, I bless that home and the joy it contains, and I know that divine supply is already preparing mine. This is not pretending. This is not forcing a feeling you do not have. This is a deliberate act of spiritual engineering. You are rewriting the instruction to your subconscious mind. You are replacing the signal of lack with a signal of abundance. You are reminding yourself, at a cellular level, that the universe is not a fixed pie where someone else's slice diminishes yours. It is an infinite, generative, constantly expanding field of supply, and you have access to all of it. I want to give you 3 declarations to work with every single day. 3 sentences that, if said with genuine emotional engagement, with the kind of feeling that reaches past your intellect and lands somewhere deeper, will begin immediately to shift your money consciousness. Do not say them as a ritual, say them as a living truth. Say them as a person who is not hoping they are true but who is claiming that they are true, right now, in this moment, regardless of what the outer evidence currently appears to say. The first is this: I am one with the infinite abundance of the universe. All that I need is already mine and comes to me at exactly the right time, in exactly the right way. The second is this: money loves me. Money seeks me. Money flows to me easily and joyfully, from multiple sources, expected and unexpected, known and unknown. The third is this: I release all fear about money. I release all doubt about my worthiness. I receive divine supply now, with gratitude, with grace, and with the full knowledge that I am a beloved child of infinite provision. Say these 3 sentences every morning. Say them into the mirror, so you have to look yourself in the eye while you say them. Say them in your car on the way to work. Say them when the fear rises. Say them not once but again and again until they stop sounding foreign and start sounding like the truth you have always known, the truth that the years of fear temporarily buried but could never destroy. Now I want to speak to you about patience. Not the passive, resigned, hands folded, waiting for God to do something patience that spiritual teaching is sometimes misunderstood to promote. I mean the active, alive, utterly unshakable patience of a person who has planted a seed and knows, with no uncertainty, that it is growing beneath the surface, even when the surface looks unchanged. This kind of patience is not weakness. It is the most sophisticated form of strength available to the human spirit. When you begin to work with the law of divine supply, there will be a period. Florence called it the wilderness. It is the space between the planting of the spiritual seed and the appearance of the harvest. This is the period during which the old reality has not yet fully dissolved and the new reality has not yet fully materialized, and you are standing in the gap between the two, sometimes with absolutely no physical evidence that anything is changing. This is the testing point. This is where most people abandon the practice and say it does not work. And it is the single most costly spiritual mistake a person can make. Because here is what is actually happening in the wilderness. Beneath the surface of your unchanged outer circumstances, the entire subterranean structure of your financial life is being reorganized. Old beliefs are dissolving, new neural pathways are forming, doors that were sealed shut are beginning to loosen. Invisible forces are being set into motion, alignments are occurring, connections are forming, that will, when they surface, look to the outside observer like overnight success, like lucky breaks, like being in the right place at the right time. None of it is luck. All of it is the consequence of the inner work you did in the wilderness. Hold the course. This is the only instruction for the wilderness period. Hold the course, say the declarations, do the inner work, prepare for the abundance, practice generosity, cast the burdens, bless what you see, and trust, with a trust that is not contingent on the outer evidence, that the law is working, because the law is always working. It does not take days off. It does not get discouraged. It does not quit because you doubted it this morning. It simply executes the dominant instruction of your consciousness, and as you continue this practice, the dominant instruction shifts, and the shift is reflected in the world around you with a precision that will take your breath away. I want to address something that sophisticated, thoughtful people often bring to this kind of teaching, and I want to address it directly because it deserves a direct answer. The objection is this. Is prosperity teaching just magical thinking? Is it simply a way of avoiding the real work of financial discipline, intelligent investment, career development, and the practical mechanics of building wealth? I want to be absolutely clear. No. What I am describing is not a replacement for practical financial wisdom. It is the foundation upon which practical financial wisdom actually functions. Here is the truth. There are millions of people who know everything about budgeting and investing and wealth-building strategy, who have read every financial literacy book, who understand compound interest and asset allocation and passive income structures, who are still struggling financially. Not because the information was wrong, because the consciousness from which they were applying the information was not aligned with the outcome they were seeking. Their subconscious beliefs were undermining their conscious efforts at every turn. Practical financial wisdom applied by a consciousness aligned with abundance produces extraordinary results. The same wisdom applied by a consciousness saturated with fear, scarcity, and unworthiness produces mediocre results at best and financial disaster at worst. Florence knew that the inner work and the outer work must proceed together. Clear the inner landscape first. Establish the foundation of a genuine money consciousness rooted in divine supply. And then the practical steps, the savings, the investment, the career development, the opportunities you pursue, those steps will be taken with an entirely different quality of mind, a different quality of energy, and they will produce an entirely different quality of result. There is one more thing I need to give you before we close, and it is perhaps the most radical practice in the entire territory of prosperity teaching. It is the practice of thanking God, thanking the universe, thanking the infinite source of supply, for the abundance that has not yet arrived in your outer experience but that is already real in the spiritual dimension. This is not pretending. This is not deluding yourself. This is the advanced practice that Florence returned to, again and again, because she knew it was the fastest, most direct route to collapsing the gap between the spiritual reality of abundance and its physical manifestation in your life. When you give thanks for money that has not yet appeared, you are doing something extraordinary. You are speaking from the end result. You are standing inside the reality of the answered prayer and sending that signal back to the present moment. And the universe, which operates not in linear time the way your rational mind does, but in the eternal now of creative intelligence, responds to that signal by saying, "This is already accomplished." Let us simply surface it in the physical world. The thanks is not for what you hope might happen. The thanks is for what you know is already true at the level of divine supply. The form is simply completing its journey toward you. Say this today. Say it with your whole heart. Thank you for the abundance that is mine. Thank you for the money flowing to me right now through seen and unseen channels. Thank you for the financial freedom that is my divine right and that is manifesting fully in my life. Thank you for the generosity of a universe that always says yes. Thank you for the supply that never runs out, the source that never dries up, the river of good that is my inheritance and my present reality. Say that, feel that, mean that with every cell of your being. You are not a person waiting to become wealthy. You are a wealthy person whose wealth is completing its physical journey toward you. The difference between those two identities is everything. The first is a beggar outside the feast. The second is the host who knows the table is already set. I want you to do something right now. Look at your hands. Look at these instruments through which so much of your giving and receiving moves. These hands that have worked, that have created, that have given, that have held, speak over them. Say, these hands are blessed. These hands are instruments of divine supply. Everything I touch is increased. Everything I create is multiplied. Everything I give returns to me in abundance. My hands are wealthy hands, and they move with the ease and grace of a person who knows their supply is infinite. That is the consciousness I am asking you to build, not the consciousness of someone who is about to be financially comfortable. The consciousness of someone who is already rooted in infinite supply and is simply watching that infinite supply take physical form in their outer experience. The supply is real. The source is eternal. Your access is unconditional. The only variable is your willingness to believe it, embody it, speak it, act from it, and hold the ground of it even when the outer world is slow to catch up. Florence Scoville Shin spent her life demonstrating this in real circumstances, with real people, facing real financial crises. She did not operate in a theoretical laboratory. She worked with people who were about to lose their homes, their businesses, their entire sense of financial security. And again, she watched the law of divine supply deliver. Not sometimes, not occasionally, consistently, reliably, often in ways that astonished even the recipients, because the law does not make exceptions, it does not play favorites. It does not reward the spiritually advanced while leaving the ordinary person behind. It responds to consciousness. And consciousness is something every single human being on this earth has the capacity to change. You have the capacity to change yours. You have already begun to change it in the time we have spent together. Something has shifted. Perhaps not everything. Perhaps not the dramatic transformation that will look obvious to the outside world, but something real and internal and important has moved. Hold that movement. Build on it. Water it with your daily declarations, your acts of deliberate generosity, your practice of blessing what you see, your choice to cast the burdens rather than carry them alone, your gratitude for the supply that is already yours in the invisible world and is on its way to you in the visible one. Go now and live like the wealthy soul you are, not in performance, not in pretense, in the deep, settled, unshakable inner knowing that the source of all supply is flowing through you right now, and that the best of your financial life is not behind you. It is not even on its way. In the truest spiritual sense, it is already here. You need only open your hands, open your heart, and let it in. I bless your financial freedom. I bless your abundance. I bless the wealth that is waiting to express itself through every dimension of your life. I bless the shift that is happening in you right now, in this very moment, as you receive this truth that was always yours to know. Go forward in peace and in the absolute certainty that your supply is real, your source is infinite, and your prosperity is already written in the book of divine provision. Go forward and let it flow.